All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody out to the combined meeting with the council and the planning commission tonight. We had a request for a meeting with the Daniel Irrigation Company to sign an agreement, so that's the reason for the meeting tonight. The first item on the agenda, February 18th, is public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight? Anybody wants to come up and address the council or planning? Seeing none? Okay, everybody's here for an agenda item. Okay, that'll take us to item number 2. Discussion of acquisition of water shares. The town is actively pursuing securing water shares to transfer those rights into the culinary system. So that's why that's on the agenda. We keep bringing that up. There is a little bit of a change in that. We are looking for any water shares, not just Daniel. So all water shares, we're actively, we've limited some budget for that. So anybody knows anybody that's trying to sell, the town is actively buying those. So.
Did you see the ad in the paper and you know what I'm
There was
talking
quite a
about?
few of them.
Nine shares for sale. It's been there.
There's
several
quite a
weeks,
few
so-
on KSL, they were going anywhere from 3,500 to 5,500. It must have been maybe 20, 30 shares available, I think. I looked about a week ago.
Okay, well that's a little bit higher than what we said we'd pay for the
Absolutely,
shares.
but yeah,
So
just reporting back.
maybe that's why they're still there.
Yeah.
So we try to stay as close to market as we can, limiting what budget we have. So.
Did you decide
How do
if
you
you're buying
define
wells?
market?
Did you guys decide if you're buying well shares or just irrigation? Remember, you was gonna talk about.
Yeah, that kind of came up for discussion. I don't know if we've determined yes or no. I think we're taking water shares that, you know, someone wants to sell. We're certainly looking at it because there's some abandoned ones that still have water rights in them.
So down that same line, we've had several wells that have become contaminated or aren't working anymore, and so they've hooked onto the water system. Those folks may still have a well right that could be transferred to the town, so that's another water right that we're looking at to be transferred into the town also, because we will move that point of diversion to the new well. So that's also another possibility. As the adjudication comes, I think we're at 289. And at build out, the town will need 300 or so acre feet at build out of culinary water. That's what our determination has been on the studies that we've done. So that's why we're doing this.
Eric,
Sir,
how do you determine what the fair market value is of the share?
they're coming and basically offering the shares at what they want to sell them at, and then we're just discussing that. If it's within reason, then the council decides, okay, we'll make that purchase. Yeah, that's how it's worked so far. We've let them come and tell us what they want to sell them for, and then we've discussed it.
We looked at maybe ones that are on KSL that are offering close to,
Well, again, it depends on the share. A share of Daniel's different than Wasatch, different than
Oh, yeah.
Extension,
Yeah.
different than Tim. And a well right will have its own,
yeah,
depending on how many livestock they can water, how much they was irrigating, so everything's different. So we take that collectively and look at the water right and determine at that point what the value would be. Anything to add to that, Ryan?
no.
Sounds good, huh? Okay. We bounce it all off Ryan. It's because we're gonna have, with the adjudication coming, I think there will be some water shares that are gonna be, that haven't been in beneficial use that people will be looking to transfer over. So there was a timeline associated with that, so they'll still be looked at because we're past that timeline, but the well rights, they've already been converted. So all we'd be doing is just changing the point of diversion. So you get a little haircut when you change the use from irrigation to culinary. So there's a little haircut on how much actual wet water there is.
Yeah.
And Mary knows a lot more than I do about it, so. Hey, Tom?
Well, how are you?
Never better.
Good, so I said that about it.
Okay, tonight on the agenda, we have interlocal agreement, Daniel Irrigation, to use Daniel road easements to place the water lines, next item on the agenda. I have not received that agreement back. We gave them a copy of ours, they wanted to make some changes. They called for this meeting on the 19th, to call a special meeting to get that signed, so they could get into design and put out for bid the water lines. So that's where that process, and I don't see them here tonight.
They sent a revised letter at 6:27. And I forwarded it to you at 6:29.
That's why I turned my phone off at 5 o'clock on meeting night. Okay, so we have that document apparently. So at this point, I'm thinking, what does the council want to do at this point on? Clearly, we're not
Make a motion
signing
to
that.
continue.
I make a motion to continue this.
Okay, I have a motion to continue. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion?
Will you clarify, are we going John or the mayor on first?
We're gonna start with Joan,
Thank you.
then we have, did you, where, I don't know where I lost you.
Stephanie seconded. Well, they both
Okay.
made the motion, so I just want to clarify who's first.
Okay, discussion on the motion?
Will we be willing to call another meeting before our March meeting, or?
That's all. 2 weeks away.
It's all discussion, but
I think that
Was the
should be
council's
changed to
pleasure?
meeting.
I think we've done the diligence of holding the meeting, expecting that something would have happened, but
We need to review it anyway.
If there's an urgency, would you consider doing that so that we can move this project forward?
If there's an
We may not
urgency.
like the agreement, and we may need to do some discussion with that, but assuming that works out, they have a deadline. We all want our irrigation water April 15th. So we would like to get it going if there's a deadline, and there was some issue about they're getting the money from the developer as well. So I hate to see them lose that because we would make them wait until March. But,
yeah.
I mean, I certainly don't want to just be jumping around.
Do we need to have this contract to us all so we can review it over the next week or so and then?
I would think after tonight getting the letter as late as it did, they're probably not too worried about rushing in the next 2 weeks. So we were gonna bump this to March 3rd in the first place, and they bumped it up to here, which we thought was good, and I think must not be too much of a rush.
Yeah, we're only, what? 14 days, 14 days till our meeting, so on March 2nd. So, any more discussion on that? I mean, certainly, if what Mary's saying, if there's an urgency. The problem is it takes us time to get the building, secure the room, to run the notices, so that's what we run up against.
I would think if it needs to be, and it just, if possible, we could put that meeting together if it needs to be. I don't know that it needs to be, though, that 2 weeks is gonna be a deadline, but once again, if it needs to be.
It didn't seem like that it was to me. I think that the people are still gonna get their water. You're just taking it off that and moving it.
But they're putting in a new line that will.
But there's still gonna be the existing line.
Until they switch over.
Yeah.
So what they need to do is get the connections in for the new line, get those Ts cut in and valved off, and then they can run the old line while the new line goes in place. So there is some flexibility, but the timeline is tight. I think what I would suggest, I haven't read it either. Sorry. Obviously I haven't read either. I guess what I would suggest is if we need to move faster than the 2 weeks, if it's circulated among the group, you can have sort of an informal, is there any red flags, and then maybe a formal adoption at the March meeting, but we could kind of informally let them know if there's red flags, or it's good to go ahead of that if they're in a hurry, so that they could potentially be ready to break ground right after that.
Yeah.
So, and then so that would become more of a formality than in March, or not.
I've not seen any of the proposals, but would you postulate how long this would take? It's like 2 weeks, a month to dig new lines? I have no idea.
I think the construction's gonna be 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
I think the cutting in those 2 Ts and valves will be done in a couple days, and then they'll spend the rest of the time connecting the dots. But the old line will stay in service, and then they'll have to shut down for, a day or something while they make the connection. But I would think it would be done in April. I mean, they're trying to get the whole thing done before April 15th, but, I mean, it's a little early to start right now anyway. I think the idea is to be able to hit the ground running as soon as, the weather breaks a little bit.
I just
Will they
didn't
be
know
putting
how.
out bids for this project, or
So
do they already have a contractor, or?
they have talked to a couple of different contractors. They've asked us to put together a set of plans that is consistent with the town standards and design parameters. They thought that would be, and we had a meeting with the mayor and Eric about if that's the conflict or if that's expeditious and working together. And so we agreed that TO would try to do that quickly and efficiently. We have a lot of the data from the water line project, and so we're just gonna offset that, put together a set of plans quickly. They have some bids, but they're rough because the plans aren't done.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Is the public in on this discussion or just the council?
No, see, that's an agenda item, we'll talk to anybody.
I was just curious.
Yeah. Anybody?
I'm
Thanks for the
wondering,
clarification, that's good.
I'm wondering how long the irrigation company has known about this or has created this situation. It sounds like to me it's a good plan and it's a money saver for the shareholders. But it seems like to me everybody's under stress that we're in a hurry to get this done, but yet we're not getting any performance.
Well, they were asking, for permission to use our rights of way. And the town put together a contract, basically, that would delineate the agreement between the town and the irrigation company for the future, for this project and for future projects, instead of always having to come back and go through this whole process. At least that's my understanding, is that right? And so then that was the holdup. They got that contract at our last council meeting, and they then have made some modifications to it. So we were meeting tonight, we thought we were going to be able to see it and go ahead and discuss it, but
But does the council agree that this is a good plan and it should happen?
For the most part, I mean, what they present, we've asked to have them give us the whole project. Right now, they've got, like, let's say, the first third. There's a couple of things that we just wanted to tidy up, but the agreement really kind of brings all the last years into an agreement. And so no more handshake and he said and she said.
So,
I tend to agree with the concern that Kim is expressing. I think that whatever happens ought to happen for a reason, and we have to know about it well in advance. And I, personally, this may not be something Kim has suggested, this is my own personal thought, I think we ought to be very careful about any kind of blank checking for out into the future. I know that Mary, you say we try to cut the back and forth, but I think that some of that back and forth is warranted. And I think that we should be very careful that we don't issue blank checks and have it come back and bite us.
that's what that agreement is all about. I'd personally like to establish as much goodwill as possible. Because we are asking for their assistance in some water right issues, and I'd certainly like to be able to say we've done everything we could.
Oh, I personally would like to see the irrigation company in the town of Daniel get along.
Agreed.
We all have the same interests in mind, and for some reason, it's been the Hatfields and McCoys.
The more that's out front, the more that'll happen, I believe. If we,
Well, right now, we're coming together, we're gonna try it again.
There you go.
the more we talk and the more we express back and forth, the less likelihood there's misunderstandings.
and that was the reason for the agreement, it's not, well, you said, it's, here it is, read it. You signed it, that's what we're doing, so that should take a bunch of that out of the guesswork. So I think that's what we ran into, is a lot of just back and forth and different answers from different people, or interpreted different. That's how it works at my house. So, okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, have a motion and a second to continue to the March 2nd meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll continue that item till the March 2nd. We will send out that agreement, so you'll have that in your emails. You'll be able to review that. When we do that, please reply all, so everybody's getting on the same page as far as the council. Does planning want to see that agreement?
Sure.
So we'll send that out all the way across. Just reply all if you have comments, so that everybody's able to see those comments and everybody's on board as we move this document forward. That will help a bunch. Okay. Okay, we have, the next item on the agenda is appointment of an airport advisory board member. Our membership, Mike, his term is up. I guess we got verbal confirmation it's up. We haven't received a letter yet, but if that's where we're at, then we need to reappoint a board member to the advisory. So that's why this is on the agenda for tonight. Mike's done a super job there. He's been very informative. I don't know if you guys have been able to get on. Stephanie is over at the airport reporting back at the council. Did you want to just kind of fill them in on what Mike's doing, what his duties are?
I'm not sure
And
exactly.
your part?
I'm not sure exactly what Mike's duties are, he hasn't given me all that. Mary could probably fill you in on that.
So give them your tie-in.
I'm the community advisory, I'm on the community advisory board, and, so the next 2 years, Heber City has hired TOG to, or is it the FAA that's hired them? Anyway, they're going to be doing a study to see how feasible this airport is. And you put me right on the spot.
That's my job.
I know. I have all my red nose. Anyway, let's just get back to my job. If you guys have any concerns about the airport, you can get a hold of me or email me at Stephanie Grady at danielutah.org. And so I will be going to meetings every 2 months and reporting back what your concerns and thoughts are, and then I'll be reporting that at the meetings. So
Will you tell them about the link?
that's the Heber Flight Path. HeberFlightPath.com, and that's on our website.
So there is a link on our website
Yeah.
to that website.
And you can post concerns on the website. There's questions and answers already on the website. There'll be, the meetings will be on the website. There's already been a public meeting, and what was that, 2 weeks ago?
29.
The 29th. And there will be public meetings every 60 to 90 days, approximately, talking about where they're at in the process. I suggest you go. It's very informative.
And you represent Daniel at those meetings?
Yes, yeah.
Couple of different things we're talking. Mike's on the advisory board for the airport, and then Stephanie is for the town council for the town to report back and forth on the town standpoint.
So it's a community advisory board, yeah, so.
So the other one, Mary, do you want to?
Sure. Mike Duggan has been serving for the, well, he was appointed by the Heber City Mayor 4 years ago. It's a 4-year term to serve on the airport advisory board. And so he was informed at the last meeting that his term has expired. And the bylaws for the advisory board were changed 2 years ago, so that Daniel actually gets to appoint our own representative to that board. And Mayor Chip appointed Mike 2 years ago. So anyway, just to get it back into sync.
It's a 2-year or is it 4-year?
Well, it's a 4-year appointment, but because they're kind of out of sync,
Okay.
we need to start again with a 4-year appointment, I suppose. So anyway, he was informed that his appointment was expired, and so it's time to reappoint him or someone else to take his spot.
And he's done a great job for those who know what he has done. He's been very good both for the community and for our town, and been very, couple in all areas.
Yeah.
Well, if Mike's willing, I nominate Mike Dugan to take the next term of it.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second on that motion?
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion on that motion.
Is he willing?
Yeah, is Mike willing? Did anybody?
I talked to him, he is.
Okay, okay.
Right now, he's heading up the master plan on the technical advisory committee, and so if you weren't there, it would be a real hardship. I
Pretty
think,
involved.
For Heber City, yeah.
And so that board, Rob, goes directly to the council with their recommendations to the Heber City Council, the ones making the decision for the airport, so it goes directly that way. Okay, any more discussion on that motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor of appointing Mike to that board again for 4 years?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? He is now appointed. Who's gonna tell him?
I guess I'm not.
All right, if you'll take that for
I'm bringing the
action.
good news.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm gonna leave, tell him right.
Okay, so did you get that in the minutes for a 4-year term? So we'll be able to kind of watch that. Okay, thank you. Okay, we was in a continued public hearing for Stormhaven Sewer. This will be item number 5. We are in the middle of that regarding the sewer at the community septic system up in Stormhaven. Public hearing is open, so I'll take a motion to open the public hearing here, and we'll take public comment if there's any on that item.
I move to open to a public hearing.
Okay, motion to go out of the regular hearing and open the public hearing on Stormhaven Sewer. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now the public hearing is open on the Stormhaven Sewer. Has anybody got any public comment? If you do, please come to the podium, state your name so we can get it in the record. Seeing none?
Pretty quiet.
We didn't know, because it's a continued thing, we wanted to leave it open, to make sure anybody that wanted to talk about this would be able to, so that's why it appears.
I have a comment, do we get any comment from their meeting? Has anyone heard that they did or didn't have that meeting they were talking about?
Did you get a call on some notices, didn't you?
I got a call that people that didn't go to the meeting and didn't come here.
Their neighborhood meetings.
Yeah, but I don't know if, they must have had a meeting, well, I don't know for sure, but I had a call saying that they met, and the people that didn't come was told they had to either get their own septic system or pay thousands of dollars or something. And so they are all freaked out, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't go to your meeting, I wasn't, so I don't know what they really
Yes,
discussed.
we'll have to maybe
Yeah.
discuss it next.
They give them a report.
So that's what I'd heard, they were getting together at the meeting, so I don't know if that happened, but I did hear the notices went out for a neighborhood meeting, so.
Is the town still putting together any numbers for them to consider? Brian?
Yes, we're
We
still
are?
working on getting the financial information to do that. So as soon as we get those financial numbers, we'll take a look at it. I can't speak, I don't know whether they had a meeting, I can tell, I wasn't invited if they did. Well, that's fine, at one point the discussion was gonna be, they were gonna ask me to look at, present the maps and talk about some of the problems, and that didn't occur. But they may very well have had a meeting without me.
Okay. Any more comment, public hearing? Okay, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing for Stormhaven Sewer and open the public hearing for the gun sanctuary town.
So moved?
Okay, is there a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are out of the public hearing for Stormhaven Sewer, and is now a public hearing for a gun sanctuary town resolution for the town. Is there any public comment regarding gun sanctuary town?
I've had a lot of people come or call or come to me and say they was very impressed that you guys was doing it, that they feel like it needed. I was quite shocked. I'm like, I'm over water.
I will report that I presented to the sheriff. He looked at, a brief look at it, said he thought he'd like it good. He said he would go over it thoroughly and get back with me, which he did 2 days ago. He thought having it in a resolution was the right place to have it. He liked it and he said, go for it, thumbs up. So he was very supportive.
Okay.
And I'd like to report that I talked to Fire EMS, and they also see no problem with responding if we do this.
Okay. Any other?
Well, didn't the Wasatch County just do the same thing though?
They're going to.
Oh, they're going to. I
Yeah,
was gonna
they're
say,
in the
that hit that
process,
front
and I
page.
actually sent ours copy to Kindle and told him to do with it what you will.
I think the sheriff was going to kind of utilize it a little bit too, as far as the discussion, whether.
Yeah, so I sent that to Kindle. I know the paper said wrong Trenton, but I'm pretty sure that was Kindle. So I did send him that, and I told him pillage, burn it, you know, do it. Here's a starting point. So there was a lot of research that went into that. I thought, well, a reason to reinvent the wheel, yes.
If the county adopts that, are all of the towns within the county considered sanctuary?
No, it's individual.
So each has to adopt their own?
And see, we're not, the county they'll adopt an ordinance. We'll have a resolution. So the ordinance carries a lot more weight. But if you've been following the legislature, you see that there's been a bill introduced that the legislature has a bill to make Utah aware that they are the ones that make the gun rules in Utah. And so as a result of Salt Lake City limiting or adding a criteria to a gun sale that may infringe on the Second Amendment, that the legislature's looking at making it clear that we can't do that. So that's on the Hill this year, just they've been batting that around. I can't remember who the draft is on that.
That the state can't do that?
No,
Cities.
so the town of Daniel, every municipality in the state gets their authority from the state. The reason we have land use is because the state says you can have land use. And so Salt Lake County wanted to enhance at the gun sale, at the gun shows, a requirement on transfer. Well, the state has took notice of that at the legislature. That's not your job.
Okay.
So they're gonna pass they're gonna draft a bill, I don't know if it's gonna pass, but they're drafting a bill that says that they have the right, that the cities don't have rights to do that. And that's, a lot of our draft, that's what it says. All we do is support the Supreme Court in their interpretation of the Second Amendment. And so we haven't made anything separate from what there is. But ours is a little scaled back just as a resolution. It's more of a statement than anything. But it does in fact block the town's ability to spend taxpayer money if the town thinks that it's against the Second Amendment right. That's what that states, that we won't spend taxpayer money to violate the Second Amendment rights of the citizens.
Thank you.
If that clarifies just a little. Okay, any other comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing on Gun Sanctuary Town and go back into regular session.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Mary with second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now back in regular session. Okay, that takes us to item number 7. Preliminary concept approval. Rob's here tonight. He's got a whole band back there. This will be awesome. Okay, you want to come up here and address, we have the council and planning here tonight. We're having a special meeting, so everybody's on board. You guys want to come up and present what your concept is?
I'll start and then you can tag in.
Do they have
packet?
No.
I have big maps.
State your name for the record.
Thanks, Eric. Council and Planning Commission?
Yes.
So my name is Mike Johnston, Summit Engineering Group. I think I've been here before your boards before for other items. Robert Armstrong is here and Russ Witt is here. We're here to talk about the property that used to be owned by Huntsman on Mill Road. I have even more if you'd like.
Well,
I have the little ones, but.
Yeah, the big one's easier.
it's easier.
There you go. So,
And it said that there was gonna be a.
we went through a commercial zoning designation on this 4-acre parcel in 2018. We have worked with, so in the last year, we've kind of worked over some ideas. We have worked with the closest neighbor, Wolstenhumes. I don't see them here. And actually deeded, got rid of their diagonal easement, access easement that crossed over Mare and this subject parcel to their property, and have traded that for granting them the actual quarter of an acre and building a new driveway, which will happen this summer. So we have worked through all that to move their old easement that was a diagonal on an old ditch years ago, and put it where you see this private driveway here. So the proposal then from the property owner, Russ Witt, and his development partner, property owner Robert Armstrong and his development partner Russ Witt, you probably know them both, is to split this into 2 lots. Lot 1 on the north, then there's that private driveway that goes to Wolstenhumes, and then Lot 2 on the south here, which you see in color. And it wraps around Jesse Mare property there. You can see we're showing a phase project of 4 one-story buildings. They have parking, we show a parking layout that we've worked through quite extensively. We've got the landscaping you can see is in green. We can talk about that in a minute. We've got, these buildings are each basically 4,000 square feet. They may have 1 or 2 tenants generally, depending on how this starts to play out and what needs are in the town here. So this is a preliminary commercial plan. We understand that the next step is if we're feeling good about the direction this is going, the town, your planning commission saying yes, you're meeting our ideas, then we will concurrently submit a subdivision plat to divide this into 2 lots. And then then we would concurrently take through this commercial approval, this site plan approval with a 2-lot subdivision in the next couple months as time is needed. Are there any questions on this layout before I go through the staff report? Any questions on this preliminary site layout?
Where do you enter lot 1 at?
Whereas, see, there's that lot 1 has a 70.21 foot of frontage. And so that's where you would enter lot 1. You can see we're deeding, there's a right-of-way dedication from the current street back to, so that you have your full road dedication, which lines up with the dedication on the Nate Orton's piece on the north and the 72-foot width across the street to Heber City. So lot 1 we have some options with lot 1. It possibly may go to Nate Orton. He's interested in that. So we're not showing any plan for that. But if it was a standalone lot and wasn't bought by a neighbor, Wolstenhumes have also expressed interest in owning that. So somebody will probably be buying that. Yes?
So, I don't know if this is relevant to anything tonight, but Woolston Humes have given up their easement, their existing easement, in favor of, they're actually going to have ownership of the real estate of the new driveway.
Correct.
Okay. And is that driveway going to be used for any in and out to the subdivision?
No,
It will be strictly for the Woolston Humes owned.
it's their owned, private owned driveway. Now, the agreement that they have recorded is, they already own the land now, as of today, they own the ground.
It's already been processed.
Yes,
Okay.
they will give up their easement once the actual new utilities and road is constructed. So they currently still have an easement across Mare and Armstrong until such time as this summer as their driveway and their utilities are completed, then the easement's automatically terminated.
Okay, and where was the other in and out that you were referring to? I'm not sure if I'm looking right.
There was a question on lot 1,
Uh,
how does that have a driveway? And that would, if it's gonna be a standalone lot, then and not sold to a neighbor, then it will have a driveway right there where it says 70.21 feet on their frontage.
Okay, so it'll be right close to the Woolston.
It would be close, yes.
Is there gonna be a fence down through there?
Yes.
Okay.
The Woolston Humes have asked for, now this is not, that driveway's not residential, but they've asked for a chain link fence so that it's not a tunnel, and
Sure.
the snow can blow,
Right.
be pushed, and so it's not a solid fence, it'd be a chain link fence. Or possibly an open rail, split rail fence, or something that just divides their land from the other land. Not intended to be a solid wall.
Okay.
Right. One of the things I noticed that there's quite a bit of discussion was not only 2 accesses, but access from 40 being the main access.
So,
For the people that got approved, there was lots and lots and lots of discussion about access from 40 to make this viable, not access from Daniel Road, for multiple reasons. I'm sorry, Mill Road, you're right.
so discussion, there was discussion with Planning Commission on this. When this was brought to the council, that was briefly discussed, but I have the minutes, in fact, of the entire council meeting. It's not that, so in the staff report, it does say here, that I got from T.O., it says, sorry, the primary access to the commercial development should ingress and egress off of Highway 40. This was a condition of the zone change. That is not true. Maybe you remember it differently, and I did not remember that, and Robert did not remember that, and I pulled all the minutes, all 4 pages of it, and it doesn't state that in anywhere.
Which meeting? Was there multiple meetings that may have been discussed, or did you just pull one meeting?
I'm pulling the meeting for the zone change, where the town council,
Any prior meetings that were discussions or said? What I'm getting at is I think there's multiple times discussions were made about this.
yes, we did discuss it quite a bit in the plan, in the pre-meetings, in the first meetings. You're exactly right, Chip, Mayor. But Robert doesn't own the property. He has an easement, a 40-foot wide easement across, McAllister is the name? McAllister. And McAllister has not negotiated with UDOT what that is, or how that access would ever work. And so they do not intend to use it until such time as McAllister can work that out with UDOT. They don't have any ability to negotiate with UDOT to access the highway. So they're gonna put it on the shelf. Maybe someday that would work, but it really depends on the property owner, Mr. McAllister, and what he decides to do with his property, when he decides to do something with his property. So there is we don't have any intention of trying to access Highway 40 right now.
And why is it that Mr. Armstrong cannot go to UDOT?
He doesn't have access to 40.
Well, no, he has a right of way, you said.
He has a right-of-way across McAllister. He doesn't have a right-of-way, he doesn't own the property that owns the access to 40. He only owns a right-of-way across property, not the access.
But if there, couldn't he apply for that access?
Only within.
If McAllister was, it's only with McAllister's partnership, McAllister would have to apply. I can cross, if you give me an easement to cross your land, I can cross your land, but it doesn't mean I can cross onto your neighbor's land.
Or modify the entrance out.
Or modify any of that, yeah. So this is not, and honestly, I think someday UDOT's gonna widen this, and they may deal with this, but I don't see it happening very soon. You might know more than I do, talking to Mr. McAllister.
Not in his piece, or just, 40 is getting attention now, and there's, we're looking at spacing and lights and access
So
all the way out.
So I do know Heber City has agreed with UDOT on realignment of the entrance of Mill Road, where it's gonna swoop a little bit to the left, and then hit Mill Road at a perpendicular intersection, and that is anticipated to come probably this summer. Heber City is looking at those plans right now, and there will be a light there. That would be the first light coming down from Daniel, or from the canyon. I do know that's in the works.
Do you know where the next one would be after that, going uphill?
Going uphill?
Yes.
Probably where Independence is gonna want an entry someday, but I don't even know where that would be.
You don't know the location of it?
No. So again, this is a preliminary plan. If we're feeling good about this layout, then we would come up through the subdivision and the utilities and all that. So some of the issues that are in the staff report, I think you've all probably read that. The 20-foot landscaped area is required when we butt a residential properties so a setback, it's 20-foot setback. So the house is certainly not a residential property. Mare certainly is. But your code also says setbacks to buildings is 20 foot, and where there's parking lots, then it's a 10-foot landscaped area.
If it's a parking lot?
Yeah. So that's why you see the entry there, there's a 10-foot landscaped area, then the entrance, which would be landscaped. You also ask for a solid fence, which is fine. We intend to put a solid fence around Mare and a solid fence over where Wostenhume is. They both asked for that. I don't think we need a solid fence along the agriculture or the or McAllister's industrial piece.
How about the Larry Waring, because that's a residential property on the south side?
Well, at your direction, we can
Okay.
do that. I'm not sure if it's desired.
Well, it is a residential property. He lives there.
Yes.
And isn't Wolstenhume's a residential property as well?
Correct.
Yeah,
All
we're
of
putting
them,
one on
everything is
Wolstenhume.
except for.
So shouldn't they have a bigger setback behind those buildings?
I'm sorry, I was a little confused on a private driveway, we were talking about a fence that you could see through.
They would like a non-solid fence.
Right.
What about the?
Otherwise it's gonna
what about the
feel-
20 foot on that side?
Well, I've got more than 20, because this is a parcel that's been deeded to them. Their property is further away. So now we're just,
So the driveway isn't their property?
now we're just on this, well, it's not a residential property, and it's not a residential zone,
The driveway isn't?
no. And they're happy with this. This is something we have negotiated with them. They're set on this. So we'll do a solid fence until it's been back to building 3, and then where we get to, where it says driveway, that's gonna be chain link. Or whatever they desire, they get to choose the fence.
So back to Larry's property, that is a residential property on the south side? It is. So I would suggest that we would like to have the 20-foot
Okay,
barrier there for him. He's not here, but he has a house up front, and then he's got horses and stuff in the back.
okay.
And that's a residential property by definition, but for the code.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I didn't know if you wanted to treat it as agriculture or,
Well, it's all right, well, it was, I don't know what to call it. It's not 5 acres because it was grandfathered in when the town was developed. So I don't know the exact acreage, but it is a residential property.
it's interesting, and we're just happy to do what the neighbors want.
Right, and
Is this somewhat interesting, you asked for 20 feet of landscaping, and then hide it behind a 6-foot solid wall? If I was an owner, I'd prefer the landscaping, not the wall. But again, we want to defer to what the property owners desire.
what the code says about the landscaping.
Certainly what the code says, but I'd even, honestly,
Yeah,
I'd rather, mostly like to defer the property owner's
absolutely.
request.
It'd be nice if they were the same, but
Yeah, it would be nice if they're the same. So we're happy to, we can certainly move that building one. I see what you're saying, and
So building
right
one,
now it's at 10 foot, we'll just move it to 10 feet north.
you still have enough room for the parking, the 4 feet?
Yeah, we do.
Do you know about how tall the buildings will be?
It's a single level. I mean,
20 feet?
Okay. Fine, then I just, because the setback's also based on the height of the building.
Correct, yeah. Again, we don't have a building plan,
Oh, no, I'm just
architecture.
saying, just bring that up.
You're exactly right, yeah, I understand that. Your max is 40, but you start at 20 at the setback and go up 2 for every one, so.
2-4.
Okay, so let's talk about the utilities. I know this is a site plan, but we can still talk about subdivision. So the letter requests 3 things. Sewer, it says sewer services available through Twin Creek Special Service District. Please show this connection. We do not intend to bring a sewer line into Daniel from the county. It's quite a ways away. It'd be very expensive to bore under Mill Road. Your code requires
Highway 40.
yeah, sorry, Highway 40. I mean, Heber City has a sewer line in Mill Road, but I don't think they would not, I don't think, let someone in Daniels hook onto that sewer line. The plan, this is very low sewer density because it's commercial. It'd be 1 or 2 bathrooms in each unit. People aren't living here cooking, washing clothes, showering. So there's plenty of room on here to do a private sewer system. It'd probably most likely be what the county calls a packed bed media or an alternative system. If that's what the health department requires, that's totally fine. But whatever the health department would require on this property for these buildings, there's plenty of room to do that. Probably in this storm drain detention or this landscaped area where we would be pushing snow. It's a big spot. So whatever we would get approved through the health department, we would bring back to you with the final plans to say this is the plan.
So all the buildings go to that one
Yeah,
spot? So-
they would use the
okay.
same system.
All right.
That's the most effective, cost effective, and it would be internal. We certainly are going to we've already talked to Eric last year about bringing water along Mill Road up to the north end of Lot 1, extending that Daniel water line up, and then that would provide service to Lot 1. It would provide a new connection for Wolstenholme, the new meter. It would provide a connection into this project, bring fire flow, fire hydrants into here, and each of the buildings would probably be metered separately. So there'd be 5 water connections. We will get will serve letters for gas and power. That is in Mill Road, so that's not an issue. I think I've hit all the things that we, in the staff report, and that we wanted to share. If you have any questions, we're really just looking for a preliminary approval of a concept of this site plan. If it looks good, then we will move forward with bringing to you a subdivision plat and spend the next month working on engineered drawings of stormwater, sewer, water lines, drainage, even some building architecture for the first building. But again, this won't be built all at the same time. Building 1 would go in first. So the entrance, the landscaping, the fencing, that would all go in first with building 1.
Is Mr. Mayor here? Okay.
Mayor.
The gentleman that, the family or whoever Mr. Mayor is to the west of the building 1. He's okay with building 1 being in that location?
I haven't shared this with Jesse Mayer, but he worked extensively with Robert
Okay.
to redo the property lines and give him this bigger yard.
Okay,
He used to have more frontage and a really narrow backyard, and so he wanted to trade, and so that's what we did.
okay.
So now this is much further away from his house than it
I was just
would have been.
looking out for his interest that that this building could be right, conceivably is right behind his house, with the 20-foot landscaping.
Yeah, it's about 150 feet from his house.
150,
Yeah. Oh, maybe you can see it.
You can
Can
see
see it
his
on the picture,
house
yeah.
on the picture,
And
and the building would be right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add, Robert or Russ?
He got helped out a lot when, because that diagonal easement was on his property too. So that was a big chunk of his land that was took off there too, so he was really
happy
good
with
through
So
the process.
he's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at a
I haven't talked
residential
to him for a
neighborhood.
while, but he was really nice through the process and benefited both of us big time.
Okay, having the commercial building in his backyard, but
I haven't
Yeah,
talked to
no,
him
well-
about that, but
it was just a question, what you didn't know.
you're sure.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Eric. So leave this here for you.
Please, if you would. Okay, these gentlemen are here tonight asking for preliminary concept, is that right? Preliminary concept? Okay, Ryan, would you like to address anything on there?
I can, I think.
I think we'd like you to. You need this?
Always helpful.
Okay.
So I think Mike did a good job of presenting the project and going over a number of the issues in the staff report. I guess the only thing I would point out, I don't need to rehash the last 20 minutes, so that we can be quickly, go through a little quicker, is I don't know that, or the changes to the setbacks, the way that we have interpreted the residential setback, you know, the 20-foot requirement, in the past is different than what this current plan shows in a number of areas. The access, I think, is a discussion for a number of reasons. One, and I wasn't able to get a hold of Clint, between the fire marshal, between when this was submitted and now. He got an email to him and then left town. But whether or not they need a second access, there's some other work we're doing in the county that are similar buildings that they're requiring 2 accesses, and I don't know what those requirements, I don't know why he's requiring it here and not requiring it there. I'm familiar with residential codes and what it requires, I don't know the commercial code. But I have a concern that may be required, the second access may be required just from a fire standpoint, and certainly something the town would desire to access off of Highway 40 if you look at the number of the hearings and the debate during whether this was commercial or not. And then the sewer is also an issue. We talked with Tracy Richardson at the county. He hasn't seen this, and without knowing what the buildings look like, really can't give an opinion, but had concerns and would certainly prefer, as would the town, that it be connected to sewer if at all possible. And so I think those are all, all issues that should be at least worked out or revised. So if we were going to grant approval, I would suggest that we do it at least conditionally on some of those larger items.
Okay.
There's a lot of things in here that we agreed to, that, if we like this, that they'd move forward with a subdivision plat, which I don't think anyone's arguing. It's just, the fact that right now we have 1 lot and this creates 2, so there's actually a 2-part process to this. There's the approval to build this, and there's also a subdivision that'll have to follow.
Well, subdivision should be first, right?
The subdivision has to be first, yes.
Okay.
Before we can grant a site plan approval
Right.
to Bushford.
Tom, I have a question for you.
Oh, I don't have a motion, I have a statement. I think with everything that's going through with our current sewer and septic challenges, I would very much, as one member, and I don't know if anybody else has the same concern, I would very much prefer to see a sewer connection rather than a multi-unit septic system. And I don't know what the future's gonna bring. I don't know what future owners may be back to us asking for, or when I see 5 different structures there, anything could happen, and I'm concerned that a multi-use septic system could suddenly blow up in our face, just like the one that we're dealing with right now. Anybody else have any concerns about the septic versus sewer?
I agree.
I think that should be, if the concerns of the planning staff and the town council are there if there are concerns about that too. I think that should be a condition of continuing forward. I think it must get connected to the sewer.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
And this is maybe not as directly related, but when you have a residential area of 5 acres and sewer comes into that, that's a big reason that you get to keep 5-acre properties. And all of a sudden, if there's a sewer line in there, that's the start to smaller zoning. And if all of a sudden there's a sewer line that's available for properties, that's a big argument for somebody to say, why not have me a 2-acre lot here or a 1-acre lot?
Well, be that as it may, and this is my own personal opinion, I think that the very reason why the town of Daniel is dealing with the sewer and septic problem that we're dealing with right now is because of when things happen down the road and in the future that are unforeseeable at the time that it's put in. At the last meeting we had, she was talking about that was put in 1969. 1969 was a world away from what it is today, and yet we're still here today trying to solve those problems that originated in 1969. I don't think that the town should be put in a position to have to deal with that again. That's just one person's opinion.
Can I say something? So, I have a shop, my excavating shop, it's just around the corner from this.
Can I get you to state your name for the
Russ Witt.
Sounds weird, Russ. Will you
And,
tell me your name?
And I also own the 2 commercial buildings that are across the highway from, kind of across the highway from this project. But looking at the water usage, that each one of these buildings will have a bathroom in it. And it's more or less a warehouse type deal. Nobody's gonna be staying there overnight. Like you said, there's not gonna be kitchens. We're not gonna have a lot of appliances like dishwashers there will be a sink and a bathroom, a toilet. We're not putting showers, tubs, none of that stuff in there. So
do you intend to, Russ, are you gonna keep ownership of all these? These
Yeah.
aren't gonna be sold to individuals?
No, and I'm not planning on selling it. It's just, I actually have a couple of different people that have already approached me about the first 2 buildings. And both of them just have like, one of them has 2 employees and the other one has a couple. But we're talking about literally, I'll bet you when this is all built out, you won't use 1,000 gallons a month.
And Russ, I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm not opposed to that. What my concern is, there's not a person in this room right here tonight that can tell us what is going to happen. It's like the Goodfellows weren't able to tell us from 1969 what's going to happen in 2020. 50 years from now, we're not going to be able to tell tonight. I'm just worried about it, that's all, and I'm just stating my concern.
So wouldn't you be able to, if somebody, let's say I died and somebody come back in and says, hey, I want to turn this warehouse that has 1 bathroom into a restaurant or something, couldn't you say, yeah, you can do that after you hook on the sewer? Because it was approved for 1 bathroom.
I think it bears consideration, and I agree with you. I do think
I mean, when the use is changed from a warehouse with 1 bathroom to some kind of a new, 30 years from now, maybe somebody is gonna be in front of the council at that point saying, I wanna change all this to something totally different, but that's gonna require building permits and probably all kinds of meetings. So I'm just telling you, to bore on, I'm in the business, so I know what this stuff costs, but to bore underneath that highway sewer line, you're probably over 100 grand. So, I mean, if you wanna put that as a stipulation, then we might as well just wad all these papers up and throw them away, because, I mean, there's not that kind of money in this project.
It seems as though I'm the only voice saying this, Russ, so there's maybe no problem at all. I'll probably be outvoted.
But I mean, sometimes you look at guys and think, oh, well, this is just gonna be a no-brainer. If I could open cut the highway, yeah, I'd probably be willing to do it, but this septic system that we would put in would be take less sewage water than any one of your houses, I guarantee it. And I could prove that through the meters, the water meters that we do. I know that because I have a shop, that we have a bathroom in our shop. It uses less than 1,000 gallons a month. And I have 10 employees there. those warehouses across the street